Hello and welcome. Last fall I went to Atlantic Canada and started exploring the provinces out there. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Labrador, and of course I went through Ontario and Quebec as well. It was a trip of a lifetime in a certain way and definitely memorable, and I will have a permanent memory marked on my left lower leg from the surgeries after breaking my leg there. But in today's video I want to talk about really the pros and cons of overlanding in Atlantic Canada specifically. Some of this applies probably to the rest of Canada as well, but these things in today's video really just focusing on Atlantic Canada. So first of all, I have to say I went into Canada with a lot of excitement. It was almost like a little child when I crossed the border and it's like, I'm in Canada, yes. The last time I was in Atlantic Canada was in 1990. And so that's a lot of time going by. So that's 36 years. And of course it had changed, but my expectations were, I want to say, leveled. And I wasn't really looking for anything bad from that perspective. It's like, has the world changed to the bad or to the worse things? I mean, it's growth in general. So I was really excited getting in there, and it was a lot of fun, that I can tell you right from the beginning. Then, you know me, I like to go overlanding, I go off-road, I use mostly dispersed campsites. I don't like to pay for camping. I want to be away from people, away from civilization, away from the busy times and stress and everything, and the lights, so I can see the stars at night. And Canada has a lot of that to offer. I found some fantastic campsites, especially at the coast, so many times. It was fantastic. I had super sunsets and sunrises. I was there alone as expected and as I wanted it. It met all my expectations and then some. In regards to camping, I'll have to say, when I entered into Ontario, that's a more dense populated area, especially when you head like, not necessarily towards Toronto, because I didn't go towards Toronto, I stayed up north. There weren't as many dispersed campsites in the beginning. And it got dark and I was looking for a spot. I went to iOverlander, an app on the phone, found a nice site, went there, and it turned out to be not such a nice site. So I left again. And when I came back onto the Trans-Canada Highway, I started driving, and then I saw a cop car parked on the left side of the street. So I was heading east and he was on that side of the street. So I just stopped, got out of my truck, went over the top to the cop car and asked him, hey, I'm traveling through, I'm on my way to Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland, and I'm looking for a place where I can safely stay for the night with my truck. And we talked a little bit, and then he said, well, there is this day use area here, and I will not tell you that you can stay there or camp overnight, but we usually only go and check things out if we get a phone call from somebody saying, hey, there's something unusual happening. So if somebody would be camping there and just mind their own business, yeah, we would not come out and investigate. So it was funny the way he worded it, and when I looked at him and he looked at me, it's like I knew exactly what he was telling me. And he just couldn't tell me to park and camp at that day use area. So he was very nice. I said my goodbyes, got into my truck, pulled into that day use area where he had parked at the entrance to it, and found a nice place in the corner, tucked away from the main street, set up camp for the night, and left the next morning, and I was never bothered by anyone. So it was great. So my first experience there was really positive. Canadians are known to be very friendly people, and this policeman fit right in there, and I really appreciate him helping me out in that evening. I followed this advice probably a couple of times, not too many times. I didn't want to misuse my guest privileges in Canada, but sometimes you get into a position where it's just difficult to find something and you don't necessarily want to drive through the darkness. Driving in the darkness with a big rig in certain areas is not, I don't want to say unsafe from a security perspective, but you don't want to hit animals in the darkness. And it's just time to stop somewhere and find a nice place. So it didn't always work out to do this during daylight. And so I followed the same idea that the policeman suggested to me. So then the next thing with Canada really was the food and grocery situation. When you come from the US and you go into a US supermarket, everything is big and bright and large packages of deli meat and whatever else. And if you read all the stuff that is in our food here in the US, well, it's different in Canada, and then it's different in a better way. The food over there tasted somewhat better. Maybe I'm imagining it, but for me it tasted better. And when I bought stuff and looked at the list of ingredients, the list was shorter. So there wasn't as much stuff in the food as here in the United States. So I think overall the quality of food in general seemed to be a little higher, a little better. And I think I tasted it. So that's my perspective from a food perspective. What wasn't so good in this case was, well, I'm feeding Shelby deli meat for part of her diet. And I know somebody with dogs, you probably know they like their treats, they like these type of things, and it's not always to their best, but well, that's what I do. Here in the US, I can go into a grocery store and buy a family-sized pack of deli meat, be it oven-roasted turkey breast or Black Forest ham. You get these large containers, and yeah, for me with Shelby, that feeds her several days. Not just, I mean, she's not eating it the whole day, but she gets like her breakfast, as an example, in form of deli meat. So that works fantastic. Well, in Canada, I couldn't find those. Maybe I was in the wrong supermarkets, the wrong grocery stores. I even went into a Walmart, I couldn't find them. It's all good. I found different type of deli meat. It was a little more expensive, did the trick. Then related to that, and that's another con probably, here in the US, Shelby is addicted to Doggie ice cream. Those are frozen Doggie treats. I get them here in Southern California in almost every grocery store, I would say. And Shelby loves those. When I built my Rossmonster Baja, I selected a fridge that had a decent sized freezer compartment, specifically that I can take Doggie ice cream for Shelby. So here's one of those Dogsters Doggie ice creams for Shelby. And Dogsters, the company, if you are seeing this and you want to sponsor me, please sign me up. Shelby eats a lot of those, and these things, well, the cost adds up. My expectation for Canada was that probably not every grocery store has Doggie ice cream. Plus it's colder up there. I don't know if the dogs like the frozen treats. And I went into supermarkets. I couldn't find any. I tried so many different grocery stores and everything. I couldn't find any. Fortunately, I had a large stash of Doggie ice cream in my truck, but I knew I would run out one day. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do, Shelby? I'm really sorry. I don't have Doggie ice cream. And well, we got lucky to a certain degree. About, I would say, halfway into my trip, I met Marianne, somebody that I knew from outside of this YouTube channel. And I visited her at her new cottage. And I had not seen her in a long time. And so we chatted a little bit, and I mentioned that I don't find Doggie ice cream anywhere. And she said, well, you're looking in the wrong place. You need to go to the pet stores. They have these frozen treats. You don't get them in the supermarket. And I don't know, maybe the reason is that Canadians are mistakenly taking Doggie ice cream for human ice cream and don't like it. So the Dogsters I just showed you, that was a bacon cheesy flavor, and well, Shelby loves it. So anyway, after Marianne mentioned that to me, I went and in the next town, I saw a pet store, went in there, and they had frozen Doggie treats. Not the brand I was looking for, or not any of the brands I had ever seen before. And so it's like, oof, hopefully Shelby likes those. So I bought 8 Doggie ice creams, put them into the freezer, and I tried to feed Shelby with it, not feed it, but give it to her as a treat. And her look was like, oh, what is that? That's awful. So, well, she did not like it. I went to a different store. I found different brands of frozen Doggie treats. I picked up another 4-pack and tried it. And it's like, yeah, Shelby wasn't having it. And yeah, at one point we ran out of Doggie ice cream. And at another point, Shelby finally decided to, okay, I will try the Canadian Doggie ice cream. And it worked out in the end. So she didn't miss too many days with her frozen treats. Then another thing I really enjoyed in Canada, and of course it has a little bit to do with me leaving the large, dense populated areas behind. When you go into Atlantic Canada, there are no big cities. A big city could have 50,000 people. So that's nothing in comparison to Southern California or any of the large metropolitan areas in the US. Of course, if you compare it to Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, those are big cities. And of course they exist in Canada, but in general, when I got outside of Quebec City, I really took like a deep breath of relief. Less stress, less noise, less busy. It was just, everything was a little bit slower. So, and I really enjoyed that. So it was a big part of this trip of my expectation. Go and decompress from the stress of daily life. I was still working my day job, but when you are parked at the ocean coast and you're looking outside your window, it's easy to do your day job. And yeah, for me, it was really like a vacation while working. So it was fantastic. So I really enjoyed this in Canada. And I think in Canada in general, with so much nature around and so many less people, it's really a good place if you want to decompress and just get away from it all for a little bit. With that also being said, safety. So safety, I had no concerns with. It's like, okay, in the big cities I know there's crime, and there's probably crime in smaller cities too, but wherever I was in Canada, I had never a concern about my own safety or my rig that somebody would break in. It was just a different feel, a different mindset. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. So maybe you have this in some of the more rural areas here in the US as well. I don't know if it's to the same effect in Canada or here, but for me it felt very safe over there, and yeah, it was fun. Canadians are friendly, I mentioned that before. When I was driving through Ottawa, the capital of Canada, there was a traffic jam. And it's like I was jokingly telling Shelby, hey, they're all out here to meet us. And well, yeah, of course it didn't work out that way. The traffic jam was awful. But suddenly I hear honking and yelling next to me. And there's a car with 4 young ladies, the windows down, and they're shouting at me. And they saw my Instagram. They sent me an Instagram message while we were in the traffic jam. And I rolled down my windows, and yeah, we had a small interchange, and it was super fun. So Canadians were friendly, are friendly. I really enjoyed that. So it was a fun part of this trip. So now let's go to some of the cons, I want to say. Maybe not necessarily bad things, but cons. My truck, my Rossmonster Baja, has a 7.3 liter gas engine from Ford, the so-called Godzilla. And Godzilla is thirsty. So my truck uses a lot of gasoline, and Canada has very high gas prices. So I always pretty much had to pay a lot more than here in the US. I did not do the exact math of how much more, but if you want to know how much I actually paid for the entire trip in regards to gasoline and how many gallons of gas I used, I will link to another video up here for you to check out. Anyway, so gas, it was always painful going to the gas station and paying the higher prices. But there was a second reason why it was painful to go to the gas stations in Atlantic Canada. Here in the US, when you go to the gas pump and you get the filler out, there's this little lever that you push in and it holds the handle up and it pumps automatically until the tank is full. For whatever reason, Canadians do not seem to like that. And I don't know if that's the Canadian government or population, I have no idea, but all the gas pumps did not have this lever, and I had to hold the handle pushed up to fill my tank. When you have a 48-gallon tank, it takes a while, and it's not fun to hold this stupid pump handle the entire time. So why that is, I have no idea, but please, Canada, change it. So another con, and it's not just from me as coming from the US, it's also something in Canada itself. If you go to Quebec, the further north you go, or the further you go away from Montreal, the more and more people are refusing to speak English. Canada is a bilingual country, and they learn English and French in school. And you would assume that most people speak English in Quebec. Quebec is a French-speaking province, the only French-speaking province in Canada. And well, yeah, people don't necessarily want to speak English. It's not that they don't or that they cannot speak English, they don't want to speak English. And I had this experience as an example when I was getting ready to cross the St. Lawrence River with the ferry. And I went to Montagne, a small town at the shore of the St. Lawrence River. And I went to the Ford dealership there to see if they could get me in for an oil change. And there was a guy, I would say around 40. And I went up to the service counter and I started in French, introducing myself and then politely asking if he would speak English. And he said no, he did not speak English. And so I was getting my phone out to use Google Translation, and he saw that and he said something like, well, in French, but wait, I'll get my coworker. And he got somebody that was willing to speak English with me. So I asked that question again, can I get an oil change? And pretty much by the way how the French guy responded back to the French gal, I could tell he was not interested in getting me in for an oil change. So I didn't get an oil change. I had a couple of other situations where I was in a situation trying to talk to people. I started with my little school French. I remembered introducing myself and parlez-vous anglais? Do you speak English? And there were situations where people just didn't want to talk English. So my friends in Canada and Prince Edward Island told me the same thing happens to them. It's not the US, it's the people in Quebec. Another con with Canada. So I live in San Diego, just north of San Diego. I drove all the way through the United States towards Lake Michigan and on the west side of Lake Michigan up into Canada. So that's already a very long distance. That's a long drive. But what I underestimated is really the distances within Canada itself. Canada is the second largest country in the world, the third largest country in the world. I don't remember, maybe leave a comment down below and correct me, but it's a freaking big country. And the distances between places, they are no joke. It took me much longer to drive in combination with speed limits a little lower. And you're not necessarily looking at the big wide interstate highways with 2 lanes or 3 lanes going each direction. No, sometimes you're looking at 1 lane each direction. And that combined with the lower speed limits, distances are no joke over there. It took me much longer than expected to make it from A to B in quite a few cases. And that also determined later on how my trip would go from the overall driving plan that I had developed. So the distances are no joke. So that's pretty much the pros and cons in regards to my overlanding trip to Canada. So camping easy, other things not so easy when it comes to like, okay, do you get the same foods like in the US, like for a dog, so that you don't have to change their diet and those type of things. So there are some challenges, but overall this was a trip of a lifetime. I'm so excited that I had a great time, even besides my broken leg, but I want to go back to Canada. I will go back to Atlantic Canada, to Newfoundland specifically, and Labrador, and finish what I started. So that's a promise, Canada. I will come back. I don't know when, but I will come back. It was so much fun, and I hope these videos really relate a little bit of the excitement that I felt going to Canada, and maybe it motivates you to go to Canada. I would like to hear from you in the comments. Have you done a similar trip? Where have you gone? What is your experience? So just share it down in the comments below. And then I would say, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so as well. And then I would say I'll see you next time in my next video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.